Hey buddy, Dr. Mike here. It's Module 4. Module 4, the last of the modules. Promoting change and encouraging adaptability. And we call that our open systems model. Open systems model. So let's see what it looks like. Agenda for Module 4, Open Systems Model, the assumptions, goals, paradoxes, competencies, just as in previous presentations. So here we have this Open Systems Model. So when you as a manager are acting in accordance to the Open Systems Model, what you use as your criteria for effectiveness, what you say, this means I'm being effective, is if you're good at adapting to the changes in the marketplace, responding to change, being able to recognize the need to let go of older ways of doing things. The means to the end, how you get there, is adaptation and innovation, which lead to acquiring external resources. So you have to go out and get what you need in order to compete with those in the marketplace. I don't know if anybody will come up with a competition or a competing product to the iWatch. Maybe they already have and I don't know it. But all of the new technology entering the market often causes organizations to have to change in very big ways in order to compete and to come up with new ideas for what can the company do now. Probably a good example is Amazon. Amazon.com started out with books years ago, and now, of course, they're trying to be all things for all people and do things and offer products that are certainly not had not been thought of as getting online as recently as even 5 or 6 years ago. So the action imperative at a place like Amazon is to be able to create new organizational processes, to be able to adapt and change as an organization in order to do what they want to do. The emphasis is this political adaptation, and I think both inside and outside the organization, to be able to stay appropriately accepted by your clientele, by your customers, and to be able to solve the problems creatively that come your way as you try to make changes, and to make the change and deal with the change. We call that change management, and the culture is called an adhocracy. So what are some of the paradoxes associated with an open systems model? People yearn for, but they also distrust power. People want power, but they also distrust power. Isn't that interesting? New innovations often depend on old habits, so the more that we change, the more we stay the same. The harder we try to make changes, the more resistance we encounter to the very changes we know we have to make. What are some of the core competencies in this model, which of course is the open systems model? It's stemming from create as one of the core competencies. And here they are. Using power, championing new ideas, fueling, fostering innovation, negotiating agreement and commitment, implementing and sustaining change. So managers who focus on open systems do these things. Build powerful networks, know their audience, accept failure, seek win-win, consider the concerns of individuals when planning and implementing change. The tensions, we noticed we've gone around the clock here. From the internal focus, the external focus, and the need to be flexible, internal flexibility in order to meet those external needs. So what are some of the things that open systems model managers do? They use power ethically and effectively. Leadership, there's a piece in the book about weak leaders do these: ignore non-compliance, give in. Great leaders inspire commitment, and so on. Overbearing leaders coerce compliance, expect blind obedience, blame others, and so on. Sources of power. How do you get power? According to Albrecht, you get power via the position you're in, the opportunity you have, the wealth that you have, expertise, the relationships that you have. How do you develop or lift your network? Be purpose-centered, internally directed, other-focused, be externally open. You can read more about that. Influence strategies and tactics. So how do we influence? Influence is really another word for leadership in my book. That's what leaders do. They influence people. And how can you do that? Well, we look back here, there was position, right there, position, opportunity, wealth, and so on. So here it is, position, opportunity, wealth. You have legitimate authority. You have an upward appeal. In other words, you can turn the ear of the person above you. Co-optation, so you can create cooperation and adaptation as you need to influence strategies, tactics, get people to do things the way that you need them to do. Because you have position, opportunity, and wealth, you can bargain. You can apply pressure. If you have relationships as one of your influence strategies, what are you good at? You're good at the inspirational appeal. There's some of the people who can inspire others just by how they talk. Personal appeal by who they are. Ingratiation, coalition information. This has to do with maybe not so popular tactics, but tactics nevertheless. And your own expertise, your own rational persuasion based on who you are and what you're good at. Influencing up, down, and sideways. Yeah, you can be here. Can you influence a supervisor? Sure you can. Can you influence a peer? Yes. Or direct reports? Yes, because if you have good ideas and you bring them to others in a way that is appropriate and tactful and well received and so on based on other competencies that you have, people will listen. Can this person here influence this person here? Yes, and if so, can that be in fact this person leading that person? And theoretically the argument is yes, I can affect or influence somebody above me. Now, I'm not the leader. I don't have the power of the leader, but can I influence this direction? Sure I can. And this direction, yes. And, of course, down this direction. Championing and selling new ideas. Yeah, that's something that people who are working in the open systems model must be good at, because the open systems model is always looking for some type of change. So a model or a manager who succeeds with this model is good at championing and selling new ideas. So completing values framework for managerial communication, each of the 4 segments of the model. So if we are in the human relations model, how do we do managerial communication? We build trust. Relational management messages that build trust. In the open systems model, we have transformational messages that stimulate change. So we're moving, we're changing, we're going in a new direction. That's what this message is about. Here we're building trust. Here we're going in a new direction. Down here in the internal process model, the information is about facts, messages. This is how the machine is running, how it needs to be running. And in the rational goal model, promotional message, direct action towards specific goals. So once again, they kind of compete with one another, but you, as the master manager, has the competencies. You've been seeing these. You've been evaluating your own competencies now throughout the weeks. Have the competencies in each of these quadrants to do all of them, even though they sort of compete with one another. Okay, SSAP. This has to do with effective presentations. S for set, S for support, S for sequence, S for access, and P for polish. So set means that you're creating the right mood or the atmosphere. Again, this has to do with presentations, right? For effective presentations as a manager. Support has, you're giving your reasons for whatever the support is, whatever the presentation is. You're giving your reasons. This is why I'm saying what I'm saying. The sequence is how you put the content in order, and so that it makes sense and it's easy to understand. Access means displaying your messages, making it, vivid and memorable, however you do that, with probably audio-visual. Polish means putting your professional touch on your message, which takes you back here to the beginning. So SSAP for effective presentations. And it probably goes without saying that an effective manager is an effective communicator and does well when standing up in front of people, whether above or below him or her. Okay, let's see what we have next. Managerial sequence. How you deliver a presentation. The managerial style means we start with recommendations. This is what we recommend, and we move this way. So these are the conclusions. This is the information you need. This is the analysis, the data, and the hypothesis or the question. In other words, we start with recommendations. Moving down, here's what we recommend and why. Here we start with this is the why, this is the what question, what are we trying to do, and we move this direction up to recommendations. So an R&D style, kind of a consulting style, more directive type of a style for the managerial approach. Flow structures of presentations and reports. How can you set up a presentation report? You can create a chronological flow, a physical flow, problem, solution, issues, action, and so on. A bunch of different types of flows for a presentation. Next competency, how do you fuel and foster innovation? Creative thinking here on the left versus critical thinking. Critical thinking, very logical, mathematically driven, probably one answer. Over here, brainstorming, free association. Creative thinking has one question with lots of answers. Over here we have one answer to one type of a question. So do we need to do both? Yes. Yeah, we certainly do as managers. Innovation as a habit. And here's a quotation from Twyla Tharp. There we go. There's a process that generates creativity, and you can learn it, and you can make it habitual. And there are what looks like some ballerinas, and I have no idea why they use that picture. Barriers to creative thinking. There are many, and you can read about these in the text. Everything from resistance to change down to lack of or incorrect information. It's easy to not think creatively at a time when creative thinking is necessary. Nominal group technique, that is moving formally and very structuredly, in a structured manner, through each member of a group to participate. And everybody gets involved. So nominal group technique is a way to facilitate a group. Take a look at that. Negotiating agreement and commitment is another competency. Dialogue is an excellent way to move your way into negotiating or coming to agreement. Dialogue is a little different than conversation. It has bringing your head and your heart into the conversation and being open and honest and talking about what's important to you, and much emphasis on respect. We can read about dialogue. Getting to Yes is a book by Fisher and Uri. Back, 12, 13 years ago. And getting to yes, separating the people from the problem, and so on. And there's more you can read about that in the text as well. Win-win solutions dovetail the needs of the negotiating parties. So instead of one person sitting out here by themselves, they are integrated into the whole and become a part of what is necessary. So win-win means that everybody's needs get taken into consideration. Next competency, implementing and sustaining change. Lewin's force field analysis. There are forces that move us toward change, and there are forces resisting change. Let's say that you want to lose 10 pounds. I used that example not long ago in another presentation. Forces for change is you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I'm 10 or 15, whatever pounds over. I don't like that. I'm going to be giving a presentation or going to a high school reunion. Who knows what? There's a lot of reasons I need to lose my 10 pounds. But forces for resisting change are the habit that I have, my eating habits, the fact that I like my cheeseburgers, and that I have a lot of other people who we go out, eating and drinking and hitting the bars or whatever it is. And this causes me to not make the change. The theory holds that if you want to deal with something, put your emphasis on forces for change rather than trying to remove the forces resisting change. Designing transformational change. How do you do that if you're operating from the open systems model? Create a shared vision, share responsibility and ownership for the vision, and focus on developing the capacity of people. Easily said, more easily said than done. Read about that in the text. Strategies for implementing change taken from the model. So the participative human relations approach, we would take a participative strategy, right? Transformational strategy having to do with the open systems model. Telling, which has to do with the rational goal setting model. And forcing having to do with causing or forcing the machine to work, which was that internal process model. Let's see, what do we have next? That's it. That's it for Module 4. Only one more to go, which would be the conclusion. So be sure to take a look at the conclusion model. And then we're coming down the home stretch, folks. See you at the next module.